our talk through our airport modernization program and where we are. Package one, just to recap, package one is complete. We're working on the punch list items. As you can see there, I like putting the graphics up there. That picture of me on the top was taken in the exact same spot, just a few months apart. So it gives you a real good visual of the amount of fill that was brought in to prepare, that site for when we do the 1,900-foot shift to the southwest. Over $1 million worth of new drainage installed, wetlands created, vehicle service roads. The total number-ish was about 471,765 cubic yards of earth. Next slide, please, Jeff. There's a fun little visualization that I put in there using our new friend ChatGPT, just to get an idea of how much dirt was that. That gives you a visual representation there, just for fun. If you spread it a foot deep across the football field, it would cover 221 football fields. So you really can't get standing there looking at it, you really can't get an idea of how much was actually moved, and over half of that was brought in from off site. So it was a very huge undertaking. We're very proud of package one. Before I move on to package two, Derek, did you want to say anything about package one? We are punch listing, everything's good, the drainage is good.
There's a decent amount of grade restoration here that the contractor can do. Some minor runoff issues, those costs throughout that have developed that otherwise probably very early summer.
Yeah, it looks great out there. It really is. We're all very happy with the project. So really exciting, and we're going to keep right on moving here. Next slide, please.
Spending still $5,000 to $10,000.
We definitely optimized that one for sure. So we got a lot of value out of it for sure. All right, package two, currently underway. Package two is what we're doing this year. This is the demolition of the Talbot Business Center. Our prime contractor, Reynolds, is actually in there as we speak. They are salvaging. The project has begun. The environmental testing is being done. Several rounds of environmental testing has been done. Well, Derek will give you some more details about that. We expect the major demo work to begin probably within the next 30 days. That seems to be what the target is. The goal is going to be to have the building completely demolished and at final grade by this fall. As far as on the airfield, we don't have any operational impacts that we're expecting. So as far as our users, we don't plan any airfield closures related to this package. And the big thing is funding is already in place and has been received for all of package two. So we have our FAA grants and our MAA parallel grants for that one. One of the big things to talk about is the environmental. And I have a slide about it. We'll talk about it more in a minute. The biggest thing to reassure the public and the airport community is there is nothing hazardous left in that building or on site. There's no hazardous issues in that building. We know there's some asbestos. We know there's a small amount of lead. It's being tested, discovered. It's being legally mitigated and removed. So there's no, heinous surprises that are going to come out of that building. But Derek, I'll give you a moment to talk about that. Yeah.
What was the reason that they?
It's because of the voluntary cleanup program. So the question that he had was, why did they stop the kids from playing soccer there years ago? And that's because it was enrolled into the voluntary cleanup program, and that was before any mitigations had been done on the site.
Yeah, the objective would be to, once we're done with this project, to apply to get back out of that. Actually, you'll probably stay in the program, but they'll change the land use to a non-residential where you could have some activities like that. Micah is planning some spaces. With shifting the runway though in that direction, you are limited in the amount of space that you'll have left. But there is some space for Micah's planning some recreational areas. But yeah, basically, as Micah said, right now we're going through all the testing so that we're actually partnering very well with the town of Easton in that we're withholding the demolition permit until all the testing's completed, all the remediation is, I don't know if that's the right term, but all the removals are done. So we tested, found asbestos. They're in the process of removing it all. We'll keep testing until we are ensure that we get it all out off the site, so that when the actual building demolition happens, there'll be nothing left. We did lead paint surveys. There are some lead tiles, which is odd, but we're removing the lead tiles from the site. So everything's being like basically, in addition to the contractor salvaging a bunch of equipment and, electrical raceways, things like that, we're removing all the contaminated items before we actually get into bulk building demolition. So when the excavator does, tear into the side of the building, there'll be nothing left that is environmentally sensitive. There's a numerous different that document, I believe, was 17 or 1800 pages that's is posted on Micah's website. There's numerous different environmental sensitive areas that we denoted just from past uses. So they're testing everything from the concrete to the soils underneath, where anything we're finding that exceeds a non-residential level, which is what this site will end up being. We're basically excavating out those soils and removing it till we find that we're not, till we're back within those non-residential levels. But the site will never go to like a residential or pure recreational land use. It'll stay non-residential and then commercial space, which is similar to the rest of the airport. But we're seeking to achieve the non-residential levels when it comes to environmental testing, which is, again, similar to the rest of the airport.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff, for recognizing what slide we are on. You can keep it on that one for just a second, then we'll bounce back. Yeah, so thanks, Derek. I appreciate that in-depth overview. The big thing is we know that the community, surrounding neighbors, are understandably, concerned about what's in this building. It's an industrial building that stood for 50 years. But the message that we have for the public and everybody is, everything's already been cleaned up. It's being cleaned up. Everything's being handled. And when you see the walls coming down, that it's not going to be anything awful coming out of that building. We are going to have air quality monitoring throughout the demolition. So there'll be multiple sites set up on the outer boundaries that'll monitor the air continuously. So we're going to be monitoring it, on a daily basis, checking that air quality. So there's really been a lot of controls, and we did put this environmental management plan on the website under the Airfield Modernization. It's a public document. It's complete. So like Derek said, if anybody in the public does have some concern, there's nearly 2,000 pages of testing there that you can look through and see what we found in the building.
Requirements are project, and that's because I'm deciding to enter the voluntary cleanup program. It's really a public-facing program where all testing's done. So we're going what the county's doing when they made that decision. The no further requirements determination that was issued by the MD in February 2019. That was really them saying there's nothing more we have to do aside from following their state standards, but the county's really going above and beyond what's required in order to stay. It's more of like a public-facing remediation, I guess I would say.
Absolutely, yeah. Everything we've done out there has been, very transparent, and we, just like Derek just said, we've taken steps above what's been required by the state. Even with the demolition permit in our coordination with the town of Easton, we're taking the extra steps to make sure that the town staff, the county staff, everybody involved is comfortable with the mitigations before the demo permit is being issued. So, we're taking a lot of extra steps to protect the community. And the voluntary cleanup program, just one more note on that. Again, that's an extra step that we entered. And so our goal is to, now everything's being cleaned up. Our goal is to restore the site to green space and then to be able to exit that cleanup program. So just like Derek was saying, now once we exit the cleanup program, that's when we can put a small, aircraft viewing area or something out there. That's the plan. That's what we want to try to get everything cleaned up, exit the program, put in a small park-like setting, off to the left, outside of the RPZ for folks to come over and, watch the operation. So that's what we're working to get to. So, all right, Jeff, can you go back one slide, please? And just talk about the financing of how we're paying for it, because it's always important to remind the public that these funds are not your local tax dollars. They're not even your federal tax dollars. This comes from the Aviation Trust Fund through the AIP program, a 50-year-old program that the FAA has to maintain the infrastructure. The money from this comes from users of the system. When you fly, and excise taxes on airline fuel and things of that nature they fund these grant programs. So the total cost of package 2 is $5.6 million. You can see the construction cost, our project management services, and some administrative costs. And we have received all of the funding for this package. So everything we're doing in 2025 has been fully funded. And the last line there, Easton Airport has funded the remaining $303,000 through the fiscal year 25 capital budget. So it's a good time to remind everybody that Easton Airport is financially self-sustaining enterprise of Talbot County government, and we have been for more than 30 years. So none of your local tax dollars are used here at Easton Airport. We pay our own way.
Anything about what's going on with the Trump administration and the FAA funding? Did that impact us at all?
Not in package 2. Not what we have this year. Anything could happen right now. But if we're talking about normal order, we have those grants. They've been executed. The money has been appropriated to our systems that we use to request payment, the Delphi system. When we go in Delphi, the money is there. We can bill against it and receive funds. So from that regard, everything is normal business. Could that change at any moment? Anything in America can change at any moment. So, that's kind of how we're operating. Now, with that being said, looking into package 3, that's what we're talking with FAA about now. The only thing that is currently delayed is the bipartisan infrastructure law funds. Like, we do have one grant that was announced last year. It was supposed to be awarded by the end of the year. Through normal, I hate to say normal, but through the normal FAA delays that we always encounter, it wasn't issued through December. It is now paused. So the bill grant, it's a smaller one. It's only for a couple $100,000, but it was an important one because it was to design and bid package 3, which is the work we have to do this spring. So as far as that bill grant goes, that one they're not issuing new grants right now because they're reviewing the grant assurance language to make sure it checks with the new executive orders. So things are slow, but we do expect that grant to be issued. But regardless, we have funded that work, and so we're carrying it through the year on our books. So because we have to, we can't stop. We can't stop. If we waited for that money, that would mean that we're not going to go to bid for package 3, which is the actual building the extension next year. It has to be bid here next month, within the next 2 months. So that's how we're paying for it. If we can go to slide 8, please. Okay, thank you. Okay, so package 3 that we were just talking about. Package 3 is the big deal. Package 3 is 2026. We are, that is the shift of the 4 threshold, 1,900 foot to the south. That's discontinuing 1,000 feet of the northern end, shifting runway 22. That's the new ILS, the new visual aids, the new lighting signage, the new lighting vault. This is the big one. We are going to go to bid within the next couple months. Derek can give you the specifics on that. But we are, what did we say, March? Was it March or April? We're going to have that out for bid. Was it?
That's on the beginning of May.
Beginning of May. Okay. Okay. So in May, we'll have the bids advertised. And as of right now, we're looking to get that to FAA by the end of June. Their schedule has slid a bit. But they're June 30th, they need to have the grant application. So we'll get the numbers in May, grant application to them by June, and the expectation would be a grant award in September if we're following normal order. So again, we're working with the FAA and the MAA on funding package 3. MAA will absolutely be there with their fund or with their portion of they'll have their 2.5% or 5%, whichever it's going to be for this fiscal year. But that's the big deal, and really that gets us to a major milestone. This is what we've been working on for 20 years, is to actually shift the runway, have the 1,000-foot safety areas, open up the new runway 422. And as of right now, we're on schedule to do that before the end of 2026. Derek, anything you want to add to that piece?
Again, with funding, I guess I would say we're petitioning for different federal and student state grants for this project to go to a year and a half. As soon as this September of 2025,
we would not expect existing runway 422 impacts until summer of 2026, and then really it would be a closure until we reopen the new 6,400-foot runway in fall of 2026 is the current plan. There's a lot of different parties to pull together, including I think 4 different branches of the federal government in reopening the flight procedures and establishing the new thresholds. But we've been working with them for many years on this, as Micah said. So hopefully, notwithstanding some of the volatility, I guess, showing some we're just staying flexible and moving forward, as Micah said. So getting ready to get out this big bid package, and we're setting the phasing up really to take advantage of multiple different funding packages that are planned to become available. So open. Okay.
And I'll let you talk just a little bit. I don't want to put you on the spot about what we see up there. That's actually what that's package 3. That's the major work for package 3. And since Derek designed it, I'll let him talk a little bit about it.
So yeah, as Micah mentioned, this will establish the new got it. All right. As Micah mentioned, so this will establish the new 6,400-foot runway. Basically, what we're intending to do when we start this project is, get in the new lighting vault, get in the new duck banks. So there'll be some minor impacts to runway 1533 and 422 over next winter, as we basically look to get in all the electrical infrastructure to support the new runway. Over this project, we'll start with the construction basically out here in the Black & Decker site and in the vicinity of the construction, staying out of the extension, staying out of the existing 1,000-foot safety area. But this project, when we're complete, we'll have the new glide slope, which is coming from Raleigh, the existing relocated localizer, and then really what'll happen next summer, we'll close down the runway, complete the removal of the runway 22 end, establish a new 22 end threshold, make the connection into existing runway 422. We're actually coming in slightly short of what's shown here of existing taxiway Charlie into the existing runway. This end of the runway will be flat at an elevation of 36.5. You can kind of see it for anyone that's been out there. The taxiway will come in flat at 34.5. This existing hold pad area is very low, like elevation 30. But we'll be tying in grades just south of taxiway Charlie to build in that vertical curve to the existing runway, which will come up and establish really what's the new 6,400 foot. We're not building really any big infrastructure on this end, on the runway 22 end. We are going to build a little temporary fillet off of what's existing taxiway Echo just to turn around here. But obviously we can't build the entirety of the project. So we're staying out of the runway intersection and then off the 22 end for this. But new PAPIs, so all new visual aids, all new navigational aids. We are removing the entirety of the runway 422 shoulders. We'll be putting in the new LED high intensity runway lights for runway 422. So the runway lighting system will be complete. We are putting in new LED taxiway lighting, but only up to our limits, and then we'll divert back to the existing incandescents on the rest of taxiway Alpha. You can have interchangeable taxiway lighting. You can't do that on the runway though. So on the taxiway, it just has to be a hard stop where you do it at a fillet edge and then transition back to existing. We'll be putting in new supplemental wing cones on each runway end. We'll be putting in the new primary wing cone and segmented circle, removing the existing wind tee. I hear Micah's selling that for anyone that's interested to the highest bidder, Hunter. And I think that covers the majority. So we will be building the two bypass taxiways to the runway 4 end. The new taxiway, what we're calling Alpha 3. Really, this is for jet arrivals on runway 22. For runway 22 landings, we are maintaining taxiway Charlie in place as well as the Delta and Echo connections for the time being until the subsequent construction packages can be built. For the most part, all the drainage installation is complete. So this is not really a mass earthwork project. We're going to be excavating some of the overfill that we placed in package 1 in order to build the pavement section for the runway and taxiway. It's more of a paving and electrical job as it relates to the extension. Then on the runway 22 end though, we do have maybe about 50,000 yards of excavation in order to remove this section. We're actually going to be building down the profile and back up to meet current safety area requirements and establish the new localizer critical area grading requirements to basically build this to its final grade, despite that the runway will not be at its final elevation. There will be some minor adjustments that'll have to take place in the future on the end of this runway because it will actually have to come up 2 feet from how it is in order to meet approach category D standards with the future projects. But we will disconnect from the terminal apron this non-standard geometry to the 22 end. So what will be left is the existing Foxtrot connection in order to get down to taxiway Echo connection to the 22 end.
And Derek, if I can interject right there, because this is important.
Yep.
And this question has come up right there where you're pointing. So this has been a point of people asking why we can't keep Alpha going all the way to the north end. You can see if we kept Alpha, you could have a scenario where you'd have a jet taxiing through the RPZ. Mm-hmm. 222. That's why that section of Alpha has to come out. Because obviously, when you shift the runway, you shift the geometry of where the RPZ is.
There's that engineer fill off the end of there, or is that going back to grass, or what was that going to be?
The 22 end?
Yeah.
We're really overcutting. So in areas, there's like 8 feet of cut, so it'll be grass. So we're removing right now. This ends at about an elevation of 75, and we'll be bringing it down to around 67. So we'll be removing the pavement section. We're actually going to be keeping that on site and topping these roads with it, and then we will build this complete perimeter road to get connection to the terminal apron. But all this has to be converted to grass, and then technically this existing runway 2N does not meet standards. Part of our ability to improve this runway 4 approach is moving this localizer in this direction where it currently exists back here closer to the fence. We'll be able to really fine tune the navigational aids to improve this approach. Right now, they will not put it in writing, but Mike and I both heard verbally that we should be down to a 200-foot decision altitude on this runway, and we haven't seen those yet. So it's a great improvement over what exists now on the runway 4 end. Despite that, we are shifting in that direction, changing the glide slope to the unit that's coming from Raleigh. It's a capture effect glide slope. We're able to much better fine tune than what the existing sideband reference glide slope is that's here now, which is kind of an antiquated system. But the reason you have that now is because the sideband reference relies less on grade, where our capture effect relies more on the actual grade. That does really limit the ability. So that's why people won't be able to be out here playing soccer in the future. It's because we're very much relying on that ginormous graded area in order to fine tune the approach to runway 4.
That's like the whole short area before departure. Maybe wide enough so you have a Gulf Stream waiting for the high park clearance. A VFR small airplane can get around them.
No. So what we're changing to, instead of the hold pads, there'll be a bypass taxiway. So if you have someone holding on the end connector, they would bypass on Alpha 2 and they can depart in front of them. It's I don't want to say it's the preferred way of standard geometry now, but the hold pads kind of have a excess amount of pavement, but these are also a little more flexible in that also for departures, if you have someone landing long, they can get off in front of Alpha 1, Alpha 2. So it's just a little more flexibility than holding, outside.
High park clearance, 15 minutes behind them.
Yep.
Jump right out.
None of that should happen. And I know that there's been some questions about, the people love their hold pads, or, they love their run-up areas. But two things to know, this has been designed to current design standards. This is what the FAA wants, and this is what the FAA is paying for. They've moved away from putting the hold pads out there a mile away from the tower for, small aircraft to sit there for 45 minutes and run up and everybody forget about them. They're trying to make the system safer. So that's part of it. But what this also does is really increase flexibility that we don't currently have. And Scott and I have talked about this before. Things will just work a little differently. You're going to have those bypass taxiways. You're going to have Alpha 3 there. I mean, that's going to be like a 6,000-foot departure off of Alpha 3. So if you're taxiing out in your RV, you need to go all the way to the end. You can, more intersection departures could come into play. The jets will be going to to Alpha 1. Small guys can hold short at Alpha 2 or Alpha 3, or, there's going to be an existing Charlie there that's still going to be longer than runway 1533. So there's going to be flexibility that we've never had to punch the Cat 1 aircraft out of here quicker and let the jets go, full length. So will it be different? Yes, but it'll be much more flexible than we've ever had before.
Just from the tower standpoint, it'd be much more, it'd make a lot more sense for us. We can taxi aircraft. We'll know what their performance characteristics are before we taxi them. So, and you shouldn't ever have a policy where you're waiting for a G4 to get clearance on the taxiway. That's not going to happen. They're not going to taxi until they have it trained. So.
Yeah. So what I can see happening from an operational standpoint, did you know that the tower guys are just going to ask you when our Category 1 guys are taxiing out, what are your intentions? What are you going to do? That way the tower knows. Are you going to be out there delaying for a bit? All right. Well, they might take you to a different. They might take you to Alpha 3, and you might just sit there and do your run up at Alpha 3, and if that's enough runway for you to go, you'll punch from Alpha 3, or you'll taxi down when you're ready. It's going to be a lot more flexibility than what we currently have. A little different, but still, the operation will move faster as it's designed. Nothing will be slower. It'll be faster. All right. Any other questions about this?
Can you just speak briefly on the impact of the closures once the work gets started on the other end? Like what kind of time frame are we looking at? You mentioned summer of 26.
I think it's going to be a hard closure for how many months there?
It'll be July into the late fall, so like July into October of 26. We're still working on that exact time frame.
Okay, so it's all in 26. I heard you say until 27, the following year.
The runway will be reopened in 26. Ideally, there may be impacts with published, RNAV procedures or things of that nature. I don't want to say there may be. There will be, just with what we're experiencing with other airports. But the paving has to be complete in 26.
How many cars are you talking for?
Yes.
Are we still gonna be able to use free trees?
Yes. Yep. There'll be some brief over the winter of 2025, 2026. We're gonna have some brief closures of 1533. We're actually I was short-sighted. That's a third state grant that we're working on with the state to actually do a crack seal coat and repaint, basically a refresh of 1533 prior to putting everyone on it in the summer of 26. But during that project, it's actually concurrent to this one. We have some duck bank crossings that we're putting in. So there'll be some minor closures of 1533, but never concurrent to 422 as part of this project.
You can see the work areas or the shaded blue on either side. So basically right in the middle there, that's not the main work area. But unlike what we did last year, where we were able to open 422 on the weekends, we will not do that in 26. And you can clearly see from the visual, the reason being, you're only going to have a 4,000-foot runway. Yeah. So if you're only going to have a 4,000-foot runway on 422, you might as well just use 1533 instead of overflying construction equipment. It's just safer. Any other questions about package 3?
This is going to rename all of the packages.
So
just like Echo and Delta, are they going to be renamed right away, or
no? They'll remain. And this is part of, like we've talked about. So the reality is, there's not enough money to do this at the same time, right? In a perfect world, we close it all down, reopen it. We will have to operate in less than optimal configurations as we get through the entirety of this program. So what you're going to see at the end of 26 is opening up with the primary goal being complete. A brand new 6,400-foot runway, 1,000-foot safety areas, working on the ILS to get us down to 200.5. That is the main goal. Unfortunately, you're going to have Alpha 1, Alpha 2, Alpha 3, and Charlie. And so is it the most optimal thing? No. Is it legal and safe and workable? Yes. And then the same thing in subsequent years, we'll go back and, there's a, what do you call it? The curve, what's that curve called, that we have to fix at the 22 end to work down? The grade.
The vertical curve in the runway. Yep.
There's going to be a vertical curve issue up here that still needs to be worked on. So, in subsequent packages in 27, we'll have to fix that and work south. And so you'll have a new Alpha 7 and whatever, 6 down to Delta, and Bravo. So
you're going to have Charlie through the last one.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So again, that's, it's legal, it's safe, it's the most optimal thing. No, but in the entirety, it'll eventually all be Alpha 1 through, Alpha whatever it is, 6 or 7. But really, we're, like Derek said, we're pulling multiple fiscal years together to pay for this to get it done in 26. We're kind of pushing everything to get it done funding wise. We're pushing our FAA partners saying, we need to do this, we need to do this, we need to do this. After that, they basically said it's going to be a slower drip. Expect less money, smaller chunks to get the program finished. So we're like, all right, let's get our primary goals done, and then we'll come back and work on, getting everything done 5 to 7 years afterwards. So, good questions. Anything else on this one? All right, thanks, Derek. I appreciate that in-depth